I didn't realize I was losing my house until I heard suitcases rolling across my hallway, uninvited, unquestioned, and confident. That was the moment I understood the marriage wasn't about love. It was about what I owned and how easily it could be taken. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Anna, and I am 68 years old. At 68, people expect your life to be neatly packed away, memories folded like old clothes, ambitions retired, opinions softened. They assume you spend your days rocking gently in the past, grateful for whatever scraps of love your family throws your way. They are wrong. Some betrayals don't come from enemies or strangers. They come wearing bridal smiles, carrying suitcases, and calling you mother. I had lived in my house for 42 years. Every brick had a memory. Every crack in the wall carried laughter, grief, and survival. My late husband Robert and I bought it when our son Daniel was 5 years old. It was small back then, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, peeling paint and hope stitched into every corner. We expanded it slowly, honestly. No inheritance, no shortcuts, just years of sacrifice. I worked as a school librarian. Robert fixed machines at a textile factory. Vacations were rare, luxuries were postponed, but the house grew room by room, memory by memory. When Robert died 12 years ago, the house became more than shelter. It became my anchor, my proof that love doesn't disappear when people do. Daniel was my only child. I raised him with softness and structure, love and limits. I truly believed, that kindness would be returned. That belief would nearly cost me everything. Daniel met Sarah 2 years ago. She was beautiful in a way that demanded attention, sharp eyes, polished words, a laugh that arrived too late. She was polite but never warm, respectful but never sincere. The first time she came to my house, she walked through every room slowly, her eyes measuring walls instead of noticing photographs. "This is spacious," she said, her fingers grazing the banister like it already belonged to her. I smiled, uneasy but silent. When they announced their wedding, it happened fast. Too fast, 3 months of dating, a rushed engagement, a small ceremony. I asked Daniel if he was sure. He smiled like a boy pretending to be a man. "Mom, I'm in love." Love makes people deaf to warning bells. I paid for the wedding, not because I was rich, but because I wanted my son to start his life without debt. Sarah accepted everything without once saying thank you directly to me. The day after the wedding, she arrived at my house with 4 suitcases. Not overnight bags. Suitcases. She didn't ask if they could stay, she didn't discuss plans, she simply smiled and said, "We'll be living here now, it makes sense, doesn't it?" Daniel stood behind her, quiet. Something shifted inside my chest. At first I tried. I told myself adjustment takes time. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself a good mother makes space. But Sarah didn't make space, she took it. She changed the curtains without asking, reorganized the kitchen, packed away my dishes because they were old-fashioned. She moved my late husband's photo from the living room to a shelf in the hallway. "This is more modern," she said lightly. Modern felt like erasure. She criticized my cooking, my routines, my guests. When I mentioned how long I had lived in the house, she smiled thinly. "Yes, but now it's our home." That word, "our," landed like a threat. 3 weeks later, she invited a lawyer to lunch. I wasn't informed. I walked into my own dining room and found a stranger sipping tea, papers spread across the table. "Oh, good you're here," Sarah said cheerfully. "We were just discussing the future." "The future?" The lawyer explained, politely, professionally, that transferring the house to Daniel would be efficient and protective. "For family unity," Sarah added, touching Daniel's arm. My hands shook. "This house is in my name," I said slowly. "It was built by me and my husband." Sarah tilted her head. "Yes, but Daniel is your only child. Eventually it will be his anyway. Why wait?" "Why wait?" Because I was still alive. Because love doesn't equal entitlement. Because respect is not automatic. Daniel didn't meet my eyes. That night I didn't sleep. The pressure grew. Subtle at first. You don't really need such a big house at your age. Wouldn't it be nice to live somewhere smaller, quieter? We could manage things better if ownership was clearer. Then it stopped being subtle. You're being selfish. You don't trust your own son. Do you want us to struggle while you sit on empty rooms? One evening during dinner, Sarah said casually, "Elder abuse laws are very strict these days. Conflicts can get complicated." I stared at her. Was that a threat? Daniel said nothing. That night I cried for the first time in years, not for my husband, not for agging, but for the realization that my child was slipping through my fingers into someone else's ambition. I went to my room and opened the old wooden box Robert had left me. Inside were documents I had never shown Daniel, not because I didn't trust him, but because I believed some things didn't need to be announced. The house was protected, not easily transferred, not casually claimed. Robert had insisted on safeguards. He had seen things in his own family. He had loved Daniel, but he had loved me too. The next morning I asked Daniel to walk with me. We sat in the garden he used to play in as a child. "Do you love her?" I asked. "Yes," he said quickly. "Does she love you or what you have?" He hesitated. That pause told me everything. 2 days later, Sarah confronted me directly. "If you don't sign the papers, we'll have to reconsider living arrangements," she said coldly. "I agree," I replied. Her smile faltered. "I will not sign, and this is my house." Daniel looked shocked. "You're choosing a building over your son?" he asked, hurt. I held his face in my hands. "No, I'm choosing dignity, and I hope one day you will understand the difference." They moved out that week. Sarah didn't say goodbye. Months passed. The silence was loud. Then one evening, Daniel came alone. He looked thinner, older, tired. "She left," he said simply. When I didn't speak, he continued. "She said the marriage wasn't what she expected, that I didn't provide enough stability." I closed my eyes. "She never wanted a husband," I said gently. "She wanted a shortcut." Daniel cried like a child that night. I held him not as an owner of a house, but as a mother who had learned the hardest lesson of her life. Today I still live in the same house. But something has changed. Not the walls. Not the rooms. Me. I am Anna, 68 years old, and I know now that love without boundaries becomes a weapon in the wrong hands. Moral of the story. Love your children deeply, but do not surrender your dignity, security, or lifetime of effort in the name of peace. True family is built on respect, not entitlement. And a house built with honesty should never be signed away under pressure disguised as love. If this story made you feel something, anger, sadness, recognition, then it has done its job. Because some lessons are learned too late. Unless someone tells the story first,